Texas Monthly's Bum Steer Awards are out, and the winner of their Bum Steer of the Year award goes to Governor Greg Abbott. Texas Monthly staff picked Abbott by saying, 6 years after he became governor, we still don't know what Greg Abbott wants to accomplish, except, as this year made clear, to hold on to office, no matter how many Texans get hurt. Well, here to talk about this is Ed Espinoza, president of Progress Texas, and former Texas GOP chairman James Dickey. Ed Espinoza, did Texas Monthly get it right?
Yeah, I think they did get it right. And this is speaking as someone who has not always agreed with Texas Monthly's bum steers, but I think in this case, they absolutely did. And it's not really surprising given what has happened over the course of the past year. One of the things that Texas Monthly talked about in their article is that Greg Abbott has had an erratic response to a comically erratic response to the COVID pandemic, that he had an inept response to the failures of the grid that really did not bring any sort of reforms to prevent such a thing from happening again in such a fragile grid, and that his governing seems to be focused on a small slice of the electorate that leaves us feeling, and I quote, every step of the way, Abbott has made it harder for everyone, rendering life more difficult, and the experience of being a Texan a demoralizing one. Those are tough words after a tough year from the state's national magazine of Texas.
You know, James Dickey, from the governor's point of view, the National Magazine of Texas, does Greg Abbott and his camp say, who cares what Texas Monthly thinks? Is this going to faze him at all?
Well, so they should just go ahead and change their name to Texas Democrat Monthly, because they've never met a Republican they like who actually acted like a Republican. And the only time they get mad at Democrats is when Democrats lose, which they tend to do a lot. I mean, it's funny. So they put out that it's demoralizing to be a Texan, yet we are seeing huge amounts of tourism. We're seeing people vote with their feet and move to Texas. We're seeing companies move to Texas. So they're in this weird alternative universe where they're feeling bad about Texas while everybody else is really appreciating how things are going here.
Ed, this Texas Monthly Award, is it going to have an impact?
It kind of shapes a narrative. Does the guy upstairs really know what he's doing? Better yet, is he really in charge? Is the lieutenant governor pulling his strings, which you ask many people around the Capitol, and the answer will be yes. But the truth is that he does govern by sort of this weather vane sort of philosophy. And the weather vane is not the entire electorate of Texas. It is the Republican primary electorate of Texas. And that doesn't help him in other areas. The governor has lost independent voters by 20 points in this state over the past 4 years. That is a lot, even for a Republican in Texas. He's losing a lot of voters moving to Texas they're not necessarily conservatives that are moving here. They're people who are open-minded and want to see something compelling. They're not really getting that from the governor right now.
James, the governor is looking at opponents in the primary. What are his weaknesses and strengths going into these elections?
Well, so first of all, the latest survey shows him up by 15 points and dramatically winning among independents against his leading competitor, which is O'Rourke, for the general election. So barring something really strange, he's got a significant lead. But in the primary, the main criticism of him is that he wasn't as opposed to vaccines and lockdowns early on. And Texas Monthly's criticism of him doesn't really make any sense there. They say it doesn't make any sense that he favors vaccine but is against vaccine mandates. Okay. Well, actually, to every clear-thinking Texan, it makes a lot of sense.
All righty. Well, so saith Texas Monthly, and we have to finish it up on our end. So, James, Ed, thank you both very much.
Happy holidays.
Thank you.
All right.